We're doing some campfire chats today with Pine Cove. My name is Chris. I'm with ChannelBytes. I got Brandon, the president of Pine Cove. Brandon, I know everyone knows who you are, but just kind of reiterate that.
Yeah, president, co-owner of Pine Cove Consulting, family-owned business. Took this business over from my dad, who started the business in 1993, providing IT services to overlooked organizations throughout the Western U.S. for the last 35 years.
I didn't know that you took this over from your dad, and so let's start with that. Cybersecurity back then very different than cybersecurity landscape now, right? Rapidly shifting. What do you see as the biggest challenge in organizations that face today, and what has changed over the last couple of years?
Yeah, I think that the most challenging thing for our customers, and really for us as well, is explaining how good enough isn't good enough in cyber. It's evolving so quickly that we can't get satisfied with the protective measures that we've made, not only for us representing our customers, but our customers as well. You started with traditional endpoint, and that was the check mark, and it was good enough. And then you needed, anti-ransomware. And so that changed the game. And now we had to resell a different product into our customer base. And so the constant evolution of cyber solutions, it's been tricky to continue to make sure our customers understand that we have to continue to put budget to this, put support services to this ever increasing challenge of cyber and protecting our people and our data.
Yeah, and my understanding is most organizations need what I'll call a smorgasbord of cybersecurity measures and tools in place. How does Bitdefender fit in that overall puzzle?
Yeah, I think for us, it's, focusing on the user, for the most part. That's, we have some other providers that help us with the other pieces of it. But I think, protecting the user, protecting the machine, and then really evolving into this kind of offensive services piece where, it's one thing to react to all these things coming at you, but how are we taking proactive measures to, get on the offensive and stop things before they happen?
Yeah, so let's dive into that whole concept of proactive and reactive. Somewhat, I would say, a new concept to implement, probably a old concept to talk about. In your practice, how are you teaching your customers to get into that proactive stance? And I guess the follow-on question to that is, specifically, how does Bitdefender address that?
Yeah. So again, it's this evolution of cyber protection. And I think this offensive services piece is somewhat new, at least in our neck of the woods and the customers that we're dealing with. And so making them understand, we've educated them on the need of human intervention, right? We're putting all these amazing tools into our customers' environments. But what we realize is you need human intervention. So that's, when the MDR initiatives came out, people started to understand, okay, I see it's more than just tools. We need people looking at this stuff. AI is great, and machine learning and all these buzzwords that we hear are great, but we need people looking at instance. So I think we've done a decent job of educating our customers of that. And now this next phase is, okay, we need those people not only to react to the issues that are coming at us, but we need them to be on the offense of seeing, what are some trends and what are some things going on that we need to pursue before they're an issue, where it feels like we've only been living in this kind of reactive mode. There's an issue, there's something that either looks malicious or is malicious, and then we react to that. We need to change kind of the narrative to go out there and constantly looking for the threats that may have not hit us yet, but are about to.
So what would, just to get more specific, what do you think the biggest benefit for an organization is by adopting a proactive approach?
One of them is just reporting on what we have done to protect versus, what we have blocked or what we have remedied. I think that's a big thing. I think, our typical customer base is, typically we are an extension of their IT arm. So we're not always dealing with the most technical people. And so it's typically key stakeholders, either a school board, a superintendent, a business owner, CFO, those type of people. They don't need to see all the details. They need to see higher level, what are potential threats? What are some trends that you guys are looking into, and how are you mitigating those threats from being problems in the future?
So that brings up a good point, and I'll give you more of a real world situation. It brings up the big misconceptions of, thinking that we're protected, right? So I'll give you my example. I thought I was protected because we have Office 365. I thought that that provided a bunch of stuff. And then after learning about it, talking to experts like you, I realized, well, that was just the tip of the iceberg. So what do you think the most common misconceptions that organizations have about proactive security?
I think it is a lot of the human intervention piece of it, right? I think that they don't understand that these tools really have been built to, and like we said, it see an issue, react to the issue, you know. And so I don't think people understood the lack of kind of proactiveness that was going on, whether it's service-based companies like myself or the actual people that are providing you the product. These tools needed an incident to react to, and that game is changing now, where it's much more based on trying to find trends, trying to get out, even industry wide. I think that's one cool thing that Bitdefender is trying to focus on is what's a typical bad actor doing for a school district versus a business. That's a different, unique set of, what are they after? Are they after student information? Are they after social security numbers? We see it a lot in maybe the construction industry, where there's a lot of, unique invoices and accounts payable going back and forth with people that haven't met each other before. How do we catch some abnormalities in those type of scenarios that are very hard to catch even for the human? We're dealing with stuff that these instances like just paying an invoice is a business practice you see day in and day out, but can be the number one target area and can be socially engineered, particularly to you as a construction business owner or you as a school business manager or clerk. They've gotten very intricate.
So let's talk a little bit about these offensive tools, and I guess specifically, just so we keep it focused here, just the offensive tools that Bitdefender brings to organizations.
Yeah, and I think the biggest one, we're starting to do really two different pieces of this offensive service piece, where we have the same engineers and the same SOC analysts that are working in the MDR space with Bitdefender are also turning around and providing this service to say, again, it always goes back to this offensive and defensive scenario to it all, but spending more time and putting more resources into trends and things that we are seeing. There are going to be problems in the future, and not only with outside actors, but what are we doing to bolster up our protections and looking at us internally and from a user experience level and a user access and vulnerability perspective, what are we doing as users to mitigate risk? That hasn't always been the case with Bitdefender or any of the other services that we provide, to get out on the front end of what's coming at us from the outside and what are we doing internally to protect those attacks.
So the security landscape changing super fast, right? I mean, it's almost or I guess it's before real time. These things are happening. What are some of the offensive security tactics that could take place, like red teaming or ethical hacking? Let's talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I think, really looking at the ethical hacking or red teaming of let's take a look at our environment and see where there are holes. Let's get out and try to poke holes in our security posture to identify those before the bad guys do. One thing that we've seen red teaming before, and what my problem with red teaming and offering that to my customers was the price point and the amount of commitment it took to do that. It really wasn't, I don't believe, an option for kind of the mid-market or kind of the underserved type of customers that we sell to. It was very much focused towards big enterprise, big school districts, universities, people that had a larger budget, had an entire team that could be part of that. And really, we really couldn't find an option to say, I want to spin this up for my 25 user business that we support, or a school district that, really didn't have the budget to, let alone put all these advanced tools in, but now to pay for these kind of offensive services, it's become more economical, and it's become more of a requirement to these customers as well. Between cyber insurance continues to get more and more difficult to renew or even get a policy at all. So these insurance providers continue to up the ante of what they're requiring of you too. So some of it is budget and having something and having SKUs that are fit kind of the mid-market. but also just the continuing demand from these insurance providers to, make sure their customers are bolstering up their security practices.
So how is Pine Cove and Bitdefender putting together these packages so that you can make cybersecurity or offensive cybersecurity more affordable to companies of this size?
Yeah, it really goes to scaling it. They've found a way to scale it down to our mid-market customers, which our mid-market customers still are substantial organizations. A typical small school district still going to have 1,000 students and 100 to 200 staff. That's kind of the middle ground for our customer base. That's a pretty advanced environment. But what I really liked with what Bitdefender is doing is that their ability to scale that to not only the size of the customer, but also the expectation. What are we trying to get accomplished? And they can build that package with that instead of some cookie cutter SKU that's, you have 1,000 users. Well, that's, many times you see in school districts, they are pricing things as if they're 1,000 user business, and 1,000 user school district is different than 1,000 user business. I think Bitdefender's understanding that they needed to find some more customized offerings. So not only the size of the organization, but what is the real scope, and being able to have some of those scoping conversations with Bitdefender to build out the right offering for each kind of tailored customer has been what I thought the industry was missing. It was just they're trying to serve all people with the same package, and I feel like Bitdefender's done a good job of tailoring that.
Right on. So let's talk a little bit about advanced persistent threats. That always seems to be, a high ticket item, so to speak, to fight against. So what makes APT so challenging to defend against?
Yeah, I just think it's the relentless nature and the continued way of finding holes. I go back to the construction example. Some of the intricacies of these attacks that we've seen on some of our customers, but also customers have brought us in to try to help resolve some of these issues of just the continual diversity to how these people are attacking. They're attacking multiple people, they're attacking multiple machines, and really building a huge case and a huge complex attack surface that they can go a bunch of different directions to. And I think the other part is it's so hard to identify it these days as well. I think, in the old days, you had ransomware, you knew pretty quickly, right? They wanted you to know as quickly as possible. These days, much more intricate and much more secrecy to it, where they can work so long horizontally, and they want to see how far they can get both horizontally, how many people can I infiltrate, and really they want to go horizontal to make sure they're getting the right person where they can go vertical, get into the key stakeholders, get into the honeypot of whether it's personal information, financial information. So the longer they can stay in the background, the better.
So you mentioned identifying here. So let's talk a second about that. How are you and Bitdefender, and I guess how does that differ from the traditional way of methods that are out there?
Yeah, I think it's, obviously blending kind of this AI and machine learning piece to people. And I think that's what's been different with Bitdefender and us, is actually going in and taking deeper dives. The tools can give us a lot of clues. They can't always solve every problem. So I think being able to mix, what I've been the most impressed with Bitdefender is their team of humans. Everyone's going to tout how their solution and their tools are better than someone else's, right? There's all the acronyms and all these different things. But to me, they've proven the people. We've been fortunate enough to go down to their headquarters and meet with their SOC and go through how they actually go and do these things and really see the people. You always hear about people and human intervention, but to actually see them in their domain, watching them, how they're working, how they're interacting with their customers and these attack vectors, really gave our team a better sense of security that we do have a team that's working on this. So again, not only the people working on the MDR space, but those people are tightly connected with the red teaming and offensive services team to really paint the whole picture for us and our customers.
All right. Well, you said the buzzword, you said AI. So let's talk about how are you leveraging AI in an offensive cybersecurity solution?
Yeah, I think, again, AI is continuing to develop, and I think we are still, all of us, the different ways we're still trying to figure out how we can leverage AI is it's a moving target. I think it's moving in the right direction. I think we're learning how to leverage AI better. But I still believe AI needs to learn from experiences and it needs to learn from the prompts that we give it. And I think what I've noticed with Bitdefender and blending the gap between people and AI, I think it's just been a nice marriage between real experiences, real people jumping in there, and knowing how to leverage AI tools to create some predictability and some, being able to adjust on the fly to the, evolving threat targets that we're seeing.
Let's talk about predictive analytics, right? That sounds super futuristic, but I think it's here today. Can you walk us through how Bitdefender, or I guess our Bitdefender and Pine Cove, are participating in this?
Yeah, and this is one, obviously, getting the smart guys on the call to get in the true engineers of it all, I think would give you a much more detailed answer to this one. But yeah, I think it's really just going in, taking the tools that we're taking the data that we're seeing, not only from AI, but just our tools that are seeing, the different communication paths, whether it's via email, whether it's, things going on inside of our machines that are atypical, and taking action, creating action plans with those, I think is what we're seeing the most of. But there's a lot to it. And certainly a lot of that's above my pay grade of being able to dive into the weeds with. And I think that's what's great about not only Bitdefender, but our engineers, of being able to, a lot of times we're talking to key stakeholders, just need to understand, like, tell me how you're taking care of me and show me the reporting that shows we're safe, versus a lot of our customers want to get deeper. They want to have a deep dive into how all these things are running. They want to take the keys and run with it. And so I think blending the marriage between, taking it and running with it, and between Bitdefender and our team handling all the heavy lifting or handing the keys to our customers, it's really been case by case.
Let's elaborate a little bit about that. What role as an MSSP, as Pine Cove being an MSSP, play in adopting offensive security measures, and how does Bitdefender support that effort?
Yeah, so we lean heavily on our partners for that particularly. I think, and we provide a lot of different services to our customers. And I think we've had to learn where we need to start and stop when it comes to cybersecurity. There's a lot on the line. And so, where we try to be is the facilitator between our world-class vendors and our world-class partners and the customer. So we lean a lot when it comes to the deep dive, whether it's offensive services or MDR. We are leaning on our partners to provide that. And that's what we had been waiting for a long time. So, maybe what you'd see in a traditional MSSP, they're internally doing a lot of that heavy lifting. We are not doing that. We are leaning on our partners because we wear a lot of hats. We serve the underserved, and we provide a wide range of services. So we have to know where we can start and stop and be effective. And so, as far as manage the tool and working with the customer, making sure they understand what they're getting and why, but also knowing when something is above what our team should be handling, we push a lot of that to our MDR and offensive services team with Bitdefender. And that allows us to scale as well. We can really talk to any type of customer, any size of customer, because the back end of it is really being driven by Bitdefender that has the team that can grow and scale with that kind of size of user count and customer base.
I was reading before about Bitdefender, just kind of getting up to date on what they're doing. I think it was Forbes mentioned that they've seen a huge surge in phishing emails exploiting Black Friday themes. So can you give us any fun examples of some Black Friday phishing scams that you've seen?
I have seen, obviously the most common one is you see a lot of gift cards. This one it's a little bit of a Black Friday, just about a holiday thing. So in our company, so we have 35 employees across, the Western U.S., and we gave them all gift cards for the end of, the holiday season. And we went and looked like a week later, and we noticed only like 3 people had opened up the gift card and used it. We're like, what is going on? Well, they have learned and they're so scarred and so scared of opening up the wrong thing, which I guess is a good thing, that no one even would open up these gift cards. So we had to go back and say, hey, this email is legitimate. These gift cards are for you, and you're not going to get attacked. But I think that's the problem, is it's so hard to tell anymore. back in the early days of these cyber threats and ransomware attacks or even phishing emails, it's very easy to tell when something was malicious, whether it was grammar or formatting or whatever. They just continue to evolve. And like we said, socially engineering, it's not only trying to engineer around who you are, but what are you up to right now? Like what's the user experience up to? And these hackers are smart. They know that right now it's Black Friday, it's a holiday season, it's all these things that you're expecting to see. What do you see in the spring? You see a lot of like IRS emails and tax emails. So that they are timing these things to match what the user is experiencing and looking for in their emails. And so, yeah, it's getting crazier. And, I think we can't be petrified. This is all scary stuff. I think what I recommend to people is don't be petrified. Be a good steward of your data and your experience on the web. These tools like Bitdefender and the other industry leaders out there are trying to make it where you can still just go and, be a user on the internet and open your email. You can't get petrified. But we just got to be good, be our own detectives. If something doesn't feel right, be cautious, slow to click. Those same things we've said for a long time still resonate. And I guess what we can continue to do on the Pine Cove and the Bitdefender side is just to continue to reduce the amount of chances that you're at risk out there just trying to live your life, whether you're either shopping or communicating with employees or communicating with family members. We want that experience to be healthy.
Well, Brandon, I appreciate your time today. Thanks a lot for talking about yourself and Bitdefender. I think there's some great information here.
Yeah, appreciate the conversation and look forward to more in the future.